It went great. I asked them to be in 70% of the time, the kids, and we had probably 85%, maybe 90% of the team that was here. We had probably 10 kids that missed 1 or 2 days, that's it. So I'm very proud of the kids, and I'm going to meet with my coaches later. We're going to go over rosters and depth charts. That's something that we're going to evaluate as we're doing this roster. We want kids that we can trust, that it means something to, because that's something I seen last year. They didn't have anything invested. It didn't mean as much, and I think if you've got blood, sweat, and tears in the game, it just means a whole bunch. In fact, we've kind of came up with a slogan around here. One, hashtag show up. We need them to be here, and that'll be something else I'll talk about later. But the other thing is kill the quit, because that's been kind of one of the mottos of Heavener, it seems like, the last 10, 15, 20 years. And I know I've played Heavener. If you'll stay on them, they'll eventually quit, because when the going gets tough, they're not going to persevere. They're not going to work through it. They're going to fold their tents and quit.
Yeah. Well, would you say y'all are well ahead of where you were last year at this time?
Well, you'd hope so. We are. I think we are. We did a lot of work this summer on offense and defense. Got to get my new defense coordinator in here. Got my new O-line coach in here. In fact, I'll go ahead. Coach J.D. Armstrong, Jack Armstrong. I coached him at Poto back in the early 2000s. He was at Arcoma, the head football coach. He comes over here to be my defensive coordinator, and that's his baby. I also got Coach Matt Adams. You're not going to miss Matt, big old sucker. Matt's been at Tallahena for, 10, 15, I don't know how many years, maybe longer than that. I've known Matt because one of his teammates at NSU was one of my assistant coaches at Poto, and that's where I got to know Matt. And of course, when I went to Panama, we used to play Tallahena and junior high and stuff and scrimmage them. So I've known Matt for a long time too. But yeah, I think we are ahead of where we were.
You mentioned something about the numbers. Where are you right now? And
anytime you want to have great numbers, and I'm going to be honest, that's I wish we had more kids out, because I'm used to having 40 to something kids out. We're sitting right now on the roster 31, and I think before it's all said and done, we're going to be in the mid-20s. You hate to be that way. We're going to love the kids hard, but we're going to work the kids. And some of the kids ain't going to take to it.
Right.
They're just not going to take to it.
They're not used to it.
No, and we'll lose some. Like I said, I guess my number one, really there's a couple things going into this season I got to evaluate last year. Number one, we got to get tougher, mentally and physically. We got to get tougher. Number two, maybe the most important to me, they got to be here. Long time ago when I became the head football coach at Poto, I got to hire a man named Gary Autry. Gary Autry he won a state championship at Van Buren. He goes down to Texas. I needed coaches. He retired from Texas. He comes back to Fort Smith. I kind of knew him from a mutual friend. He was retired, so he comes on and helps me. Well, he helped me become a head coach. And I remember one of the things he used to tell me, he said, listen, being a young coach, you're going to make tons of rules, or I see it too many times with young coaches. They make a bunch of rules. Well, the only thing with all these rules is you've got to enforce them. And he said, you need to pick 1 or 2 things out that's, you can't live without. Well, through the years, my 1 or 2 things really has been one. I need you at practice, period, end of story. Summertime, we ask them to be here 70% of the time, because if they've got vacations, if they've got church camp, you need to do those things. Go do them, be with your family. 70% of the time is not very long. In fact, it ended up being 20 times, that's it, during the summer. And that's counting spring football and everything. Kids that want to take vacations during the, school year or something like that, or when we start football, I can't use you. I need kids that are dedicated, that's going to be here and be here at practice.
What is your schedule for next week? You start practice Monday, is that correct?
That is correct. Monday will start, which has got a little bit cooler, but Monday will start at 6:20 in the evening. Tuesday, we're going to go at 6:20 in the evening. Wednesday, I'm not going to compete with church, so we're going to come in at 2:20. Thursday, we start school. We'll go 7th hour. And then Friday's our first day of pads. And I've done this everywhere I've ever been. 7th hour, we're going to take pictures for the program and stuff, and then we'll come back at 6:20. So that's kind of the schedule. Monday and Tuesday, 6:20. Wednesday, Thursday, 2:20. And then Friday, come back at 6:20.
How's your support been from the community and the school and everything?
It's been great. I'm going to be honest, it's one of the reasons I took the job. I told Coach Adams and I told Coach Armstrong, I said, this community wants a winner. I've never seen a community want a winner so bad. In fact, they're to the point where they just want to compete. Last year, I had so many people come up to me and said, hey, great season, great game, and we went 0-10. I'm thinking, what do you mean we went 0-10? And someone told me later on, they said, we had one game where they ran the clock, and that was against Vian. And I said, yeah. They said, probably about 8 out of 10 games are running the clock right after halftime, and we never had that, which still blew my mind, but they want a winner. And I say winner, like I said, they just want to compete. You know, Coach Vickers made a comment to me, and I actually told Coach Armstrong this not too long ago. He goes, Poto and Heavener do not play anymore. They hadn't played in a long time, but there's still a rivalry between Poto and Heavener. He said a bunch of people from Heavener go to Poto and watch games, and they hate Poto. They really ain't rooting for him, but they just want to go watch a competitive game.
And good football.
Yeah, and good football. Said, if we could just get to where we're competing and looking like a football team and acting like a football team, he said they would just be tickled because now they can stay at home and watch a game in their hometown.
Well, you can tell at the first one or two home games, you're going to have a huge crowd.
Right.
You know.
Well, and, you know, we should be fun to watch. Like I said, we're going to love the kids hard, but we're going to push them. And I think we've got our point across. You know, Coach Adams has done a real good job. We've already started running the kids about the last 3 or 4 weeks because I really do feel like last year, our first 3 games, we played pretty well.
You had a chance to go
3-0. And I just didn't think we were in shape. And we're going to have, you know, being not having a large number of kids, there's going to be a bunch of them have to play both ways. So they're going to have to be in shape. And that goes back to having a skin in the game. You know, if you've got more invested, it's harder to quit. And, you know, again, Coach Adams, Coach Armstrong's saying, kill the quit. We got to try to kill the quit.
And a week from Friday is your first scrimmage?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Against Gore. They'll be coming here. If you're not familiar with Gore, they're a class below us. They're Class A, but they're one of the top schools in Class A. In fact, some people you talk to, they believe they might win it all in Class A. I don't know. They're going to be a really good football team.
That'll be a good test.
It really will. It really will.
And again, you have a 0-week game at Pecola.
At Pecola, we start out 0 week, then we go to Central, then we're home against Hartshorn, and then we take off week 3, and then of course get into district play.
You're going south this year instead of north. Is that an improvement or about the same?
I think it's about the same. You know, you trade buy-in for you follow.
But there's not a Cassia Hall.
There's not a Cassia Hall, but
Idabel's
you know, you could throw Idabel in there. You know, I don't know. Like I said, right now, and I've told the kids this, and I believe it. In fact, I'm going to revisit it. Secretly, yeah, I want to make the playoffs. Can we do it? I don't know. Time will tell. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say we're going to do this and we're going to. I don't know. But what I want to see the kids do, and I think the wins and losses will take care of themselves. If we will come to work every day, be here every day, come to practice, work hard in practice, play hard in the game, no matter what happens, just play. At the end of the day, this is supposed to be fun. And even if things aren't going your way, you're still getting to do something that you love to do. Because if you didn't love to do it, you wouldn't be out here because it's hard. But if you'll do those things, I think...
It's also a lot more fun to win, though.
It is. It is a lot more fun to win. But I still don't think... You know, like I said, I don't think they've done the things they needed to do in the off season. They haven't been in shape. You know, they haven't been held accountable if you miss practice. And you can't win that way. You just can't do it. I remember my first year here, and I felt bad for saying this. One of the Ritter boys asked me, said, "Hey, your last year at Panama, y'all came down here and y'all were down to us at halftime. Were you scared?" I'm sitting there thinking, should I say it to him? Should I not? So I was just honest. I said, listen, and sometimes I'm honest to a fault. I said, listen, no, I never was scared. I went into halftime. We weren't very good my last year at Panama, but I knew them kids were going to hit Heavener. Yeah. They were going to bust them in the mouth every play. I said, so I knew you guys were going to fold because Heavener's kind of been notorious for dragging kids off the field left and right. I've never seen this many kids get hurt. And I knew y'all'd find a way to screw it up. And
that
sure
second
enough,
half of that game, you ran basically 2 plays,
Yeah, I just ran a quarterback counter basically the whole night.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we got to get out of that mentality. We got to get out of the circle to win. That everyone kind of marks on the schedule. Well, that's a win, that's a win, that's a win. I imagine we're going to be a lot of teams homecoming. I imagine that's happened a bunch. I want to get to the point, I would love to make the playoffs, but it's hard to say that when you're 0-10. But at least, that last year at Panama, we weren't very good. We finished 3-7. But that was still a fun group because they came to work every day, they played hard, and I guarantee teams knew they were in games with them. Now, we had a lot of holes, we couldn't fill them, and we ended up getting beat. But we were in just about every game. And as a coach, that's all you can ask. The kids did the best they could.
One thing we've talked about before is there's been kind of a change in the attitude for the whole the boys program in Heavener. It's gotten better in baseball, gotten better in basketball. Now it just has to come to football.
Well, that's another reason. There's few reasons why I took this job. One is close to home. 2, I could see the community wants a winner. But the other one is, honestly, Coach Cartwright, the baseball coach, and Coach McAllister, the basketball coach. For some reason, they took me in immediately. And I have been in programs where, whether it be baseball or basketball, they want their kids all the time. Mm-hmm. And they don't share athletes. Well, a place like Heavener, you've got to share your athletes. And they want their kids to play other sports. I'm going to be honest, I love my kids. I love my football kids. But after football, I like the weight room. I do like the weight room. But go do something. Go compete in something else. We're going to add wrestling. Coach Armstrong's going to add wrestling.
And that's probably the top thing that's going to help football.
It will. Well, and I still say basketball helps too. Yeah. My son plays football and basketball. And, I'm telling you, he's not very fast, but he has gotten faster, and I think it's because of basketball. Lateral movement, moving around, talking about coaches. Coach Club's going to come over from basketball and help us in football. So that was another reason why I took it, is because of the baseball and the basketball program. I'm telling you, we are all on the same page. Coach McAllister, Coach Cartwright, and myself. We're all together. We're trying to get this thing going. I told someone the other day, Stigler is a big-time football school and really just big-time athletics school.
But 15 years ago, they were in the same boat as Heavener.
Exactly. My first time there, they were more of a girl, and I'm not saying I want to see the girls keep doing well, but they were more of a girls' sports school. They'd won a couple state championships in girls' basketball, and I was there for 4 years. I'd then go to Poto. I come back to Stigler, and I was there 3 years. We played in the quarterfinals. We played in the second round. Of course, last 2 years ago, everyone called them the public school state champions because they played private school in the state championship game, played them pretty well. So it had totally flipped. And, it's a big-time boys sport. The boys are tough. That's one thing you'll say about Stigler kids. They're tough.
They would hit you more than anything.
Yeah, they'd hit you mentally and physically. And I'm going to be honest, that's something that we want to try to build here, is toughness and being mentally tough and being physically tough. Because, my preacher preached on this a couple weeks ago. He talked about there's an attack on masculinity, man's masculinity. And I agree with that. And football, basketball, baseball, wrestling, got to be a man. You got to be tough. and I think we got to get back to that.
Like you mentioned, you've added a couple of coaches. How much was that going to help that you can mainly concentrate more on offense and let them do the
Tremendously.
defense?
You know, I've been very fortunate when I was at Poto. Coach Autry and mainly Andy Perdue were my defensive guys, and Andy took over. I think Gary was there about 2 or 3 years, and then Andy took over. I never worried about defense. It was their deal. It's almost like I had 2 head coaches. You know, I was the head coach, but I was also the offensive coordinator, and I didn't mess with Andy. When I went to Panama, I had Randy Darnell. Randy took care of the defense. I didn't mess with it, and I trusted him. You know, I seen it at Stigler. Chris Reisenhoover was the head coach. He was the offensive coordinator, but Dwight Carey was the defensive guy. He took care of it. Well, that's why I wanted a defensive guy. I brought JD in. I've known JD. It's his baby, and I'll take care of the offense. I'm going to run the scout team for him, and that's pretty well it. I'm going to stay out of it. So that's, you know, it's going to take a village to get this turned around. Not one person can do it, and I'm not a micromanager. I kind of want coaches. I want them to coach. They do their thing, and here we go.
Well, that's good, man. I appreciate it.
All right, no problem.
If you guys